Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's #1 community for brilliant childcare leaders. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches, best-selling authors, and have personally helped thousands of childcare owners around the world achieve incredible growth. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, Brian and Carol Dupre.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Childcare Genius Podcast.
We're your hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre, and we are so excited to have you with us today. But before we begin, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode. And thank you so much for tuning in. We're delighted to have you take time out of your busy day to join us. We wanted to tell you about an exciting new sponsor of the Childcare Genius Podcast. We're delighted to tell you that Leaf Insurance is now the sponsor of the Childcare Genius Podcast, and we have a rule when it comes to endorsing or working with sponsors. We will only work with a sponsor of a product that we actually use ourselves, and we've used Leaf Insurance for many years. It's a great company. We love them.
And they have helped us save a lot of money on insurance premiums. And they also specialize in insurance for childcare providers. So they may have things that you never thought of that they'll let you know you need.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't go to a podiatrist for a heart problem. Why would you go to a regular insurance agent for childcare insurance? Give Blake a call at Leaf Insurance to get a free quote, and I know you'll be glad you did, at 972-866-4065 or Blake at leafinsurance.com.
Our guest on the podcast today is Beth Cannon. Beth is a dynamic speaker and trainer. She'll be discussing ways to attract and retain quality staff, a topic that everyone needs right now.
We met Beth for the first time at a conference in Florida a couple weeks ago, and we just fell in love with her. She has a great personality, love her business model, and I know it would be great to have her on the podcast. We're glad she was finally able to free up her schedule and join us.
Let's get Beth on the line.
Hi, Beth. Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
Oh, we really enjoy having you on. We're excited. We got to meet you a little bit a couple months ago. We were down in Florida at a conference. We got to meet you for the very first time, and enjoyed meeting you.
Well, it was such a fun time. Lots of great early education bosses in that room.
Oh, it was definitely huge. We hadn't been to a conference, I think, since COVID had started. It was nice to interact with people live again, and get to know people that we've never met. We were just talking to Summer Piha, and we hadn't seen her in a long time. And then we got to meet you. We got to meet a whole bunch of other childcare leaders. We just had a great time down there.
Yeah, it was fun. Super fun.
So where are you calling in from today?
I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area.
Oh, wow. You're in a heat wave. So we're getting ready for winter here. You know, it was in the 40s this morning, and it was chilly, and people turn the heat on here in the morning and then turn the air conditioning on in the afternoon. You're probably still air conditioning all day, right?
Oh, 100%. It's about 85 degrees and humid outside right now. And we probably won't have winter until February. 85. And then we might have a week and we might have a month. They always say in Texas, if you don't like the weather, stay for a minute. It'll change.
Yeah. I mean, Texas would be nice for us. Probably February would be like the perfect month, and that would be like the only month we'd want to go.
Yeah, that's when we like to travel to get out of the freezing cold. I'm a Southern girl, so I love the sun and the heat and the warm. So it's good. We get a little bit of a mix, but not too much.
You'd probably be wearing a winter coat down there, and I'd be wearing shorts. Yeah. 40 degrees in the wintertime, me, that's shorts weather.
Oh my gosh. I would cry every day, Brian. I would cry every day.
Yeah, sometimes you get used to it, right? Well, let's get into the podcast here. So our audience can't wait to hear from you.
I'm excited to be here. I love your audience because they are us, right? The early education people. And so I'm always excited to share some of the things I've learned in the trenches and get a chance to connect.
Awesome.
All right. Well, can you tell our listeners how you got into the childcare business?
You know, it's funny, Carol, I didn't intend to get in the childcare business. I intended to.
Nobody does.
I know, right? Well, I was 24 years ago, I was a school teacher, and back then we called it an aerobics instructor. And I had just had my first child, and I didn't really want to go back into the classroom full time. So I was looking to do something with kids and fitness to, kids. I love exercise, love keeping kids active and physically fit. And so we bought a franchise at a company called Stretch and Grow, and it's an enrichment program. And we go into centers, and now we do fitness, dance, sports, gymnastics, music. But that was my first tiptoe into the childcare area. And then fast forward 24 years later, we've got 12 franchises. We have the biggest franchise in the world, Stretch and Grow Global. We're in 20 countries. And I'm also the corporate trainer. So I've been training early education business owners for about 20 years. And then I've been speaking and training at conferences for early educators for about that long, about 20 years as well.
Wow. You have quite the resume. And you raised, how many children do you have? You have teenagers, right?
Well, they're grown and flown now. So they're 24. My daughter's turned 24 and my son is 22. And so official empty nesters. She got married in June and moved out. And then my son got a job, stayed home for a few months, saved some money, and he just moved out officially last night. So no one's coming back home. It's just my husband and me. And we're business partners like you guys. So we work together in the business, and we work and live together and do life together. So it's fun. So
did you cry when the nest was empty?
I have to admit that I did. I was leaving last night, and he's like, "Mom, don't cry. Why are you? This is a good thing. You did what you were supposed to do." And I did, and I'm proud of them. But it's just to see. It's kind of you've got grown kids as well. It's kind of a loss of a season that you love so much. My kids were a lot of fun and still fun as adults. I super enjoyed them, raising them, and my daughter works with me now. That baby that was born 24 years ago is now one of the directors in the business, and then my son works for childcare CRM. So we're all kind of in the thick of it.
I love that. We 4 of our 5 kids work for us too, and we just love that you could pass it on to the next generation. Yeah. So Beth, childcare staffing is a problem nationwide right now. We wanted to tackle this on the podcast, and I know this is one area that you're doing a lot of training on. Can you give our audience some quality strategies to attract and retain quality staff?
Well, I think the strategy overall, I think of it kind of as an umbrella with kind of three props under it. It's the attraction, it's the training, and it's the retention piece of it as well. And I think sometimes we've thought of those 3 separate categories as silos. And, prior to, really COVID, childcare staffing has always been challenging, right? It's always been hard to find those great, amazing people that really feel called to make an impact with our families and who truly enjoy and love working with kids. And, we know what's happened in the last few years. So many have left the industry. It's harder. And so there's different challenges now. And so the attraction phase, to me, is something that we've got to start being more intentional about. So, and that goes back to, what is your staff brand? And I became familiar with this term probably about 4 years ago. We rebranded Stretch and Grow. It was a 25-year-old company, hadn't been branded aesthetically from the outside in all of those years. But through that journey, I began to explore, what is employer branding? And what that is, it's a talent attraction strategy, so that you know who you are, you know what your core values are, you know what your brand words are, you know what your, for lack of a better word, manifesto, right? Like, what are our we believe in statements? And then you begin to attract people who believe in what you believe in, who have your same core values. Because this is what I believe. And you guys, you can tell me if you agree or not. I think in life, there are 3 kinds of talents or things when you're looking for new hires. You've got skills, and you've got knowledge, and you have talent. And I believe we can give people skills. We can certainly impart knowledge to them with the right training tools. But what we can't give them is talent. We can't give people values. We can't give people energy and enthusiasm and a true love for children. And I think once I realized, I don't care about their experience. Unless you are in a center, unless your school, requires a degree or a CDA or some sort of other credentialing, I just believe that for the most part, we can teach people how to care for kids, but it's attracting people who want that, who feel called to that, who enjoy that. And so I think it's being intentional about the attraction strategy. I teach a lot of my clients. I do a group coaching program called Step to Strategy Academy. And we talk about, we do a lot of really hard work on, what's your job description? Is it fun? Does it look like it's going to be a good time to come here and work? What are your benefits that you offer? And I don't just mean like payroll or health care or whatever. I mean, what are the true other benefits that you offer? And then really reaching out quickly and immediately, the way you connect with them, the way they interact with you. It's kind of like a dance, right? And you find that this is what I find. If I'm doing the foxtrot and you're doing the tango, we're probably not going to make a good fit. Like, we need to get together. We need to connect. This is the next step. This is the next step. This is the next step. Be very clear on how you're going to attract them. So I think the attraction phase is one piece of it. And then the training phase is really, really important. Now, I'm a tree teacher at heart. Like I said, I was a school teacher. And what's crazy, what most people don't know, is I was a high school teacher. So I taught high school English. And when I began training people, and really how I train, my core programs are aligned to appeal to a 16-year-old. Like, if I want to teach to the level of a 16-year-old, not that we're dumbing down what we do, but Brian, we joked, like you said, you're ADD. I'm ADD as well. And I think a lot of super creative, busy, entrepreneur-minded people have a lot going on, right? You couldn't cast a vision for your company and a vision for your life and a vision for your family if you were like just focused on the tiny details of everything, because you see the big picture. And I think that is the beauty of a brain like that. And I know so many of our owners and directors are like that, right? They're very much big picture people, and the details aren't important, which is why you need a great partner like Carol to come along and keep you organized. I have that in my husband. Like I said, we've been business partners for a long time. And you've heard me speak on the Enneagram, right? I think that you guys were there in Orlando when I spoke on the Enneagram. And for your listeners who aren't familiar, it's just a personality test, right? I mean, there's a ton of them out there. I love the Enneagram because I think it shows you that there are really 9 different ways to look at the world. And your normal is your normal, and you can't change your normal. So I'm an achiever, for example. I'm a 3. So I see big picture. I want to work. I want to achieve. I want to grow my business. I want to set goals. I want to crush goals. I want to lock arms with other people and say, come on, let's go, let's go. My husband's a 1. He's a perfectionist. So he sees the details and things. But with that said, the reason that I say that, when you're looking at training people, you have to realize people have different learning styles. People have different ways that they approach things. People have different ways that they learn and understand and take that knowledge and then turn it into talent. So when we look at the whole staffing crisis and we look at what it looks like to retain, it's not just the attraction, it's how you're training them. And I believe this to my core. If you are using a paper manual to train your people, you are missing out on a tremendous opportunity to help people learn and understand what you want them to know, think, and do when they're in your center, right? So one of the core things I teach, it's called Manuals to Modules. And I've got a free download. I'll link it to you in the show notes. And it's just, it's a checklist. And it teaches you how to take your paper manual and convert it into 5 core components, which are then online courses that your team will watch and interact with, and you can, drop in videos and they can hear your stories. And so it's not just a hand to paper, reading the notebook that they're following through. I mean, we're training like it's 1980, like, here's your Trapper Keeper, here's your 3-ring binder with 287 pages that I know 1,000% you're never going to read it. So I think that the proper training tools are important. Now, do you need a handbook? Of course you do. Licensing says you need a handbook. Your attorney will tell you, make sure you sign off, have everyone sign off on all the policies that you can't get sued for. And those things are important for liability, right? But what we've done is we've mistaken this handbook for a training tool. And people aren't learning. And then when they don't learn and understand what it is like to work for you, they're not staying. And now there's a disconnect, and they don't know your story, and they don't know your passion, and they don't know who you are as a family, and they don't know your brand voice. And so much gets lost in the translation of the person that wrote that manual to the teacher, and then how that's played out in the classroom. So I feel like the training is a key piece to make sure that they understand what it's like to truly work here. Have you guys seen that when you bring people in and then you get them trained and then you're like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to do that. Have you seen that in your own centers?
Definitely. All the time, actually. And when you ask them, they're like, oh, I don't remember reading that, or I don't remember seeing that on the videos.
Right. And so, training is not just a one-stop shop, right? We all learn by doing. The power to do comes by doing. And so one of the other things that I teach is to have a really intentional step-by-step onboarding process. We think of, let's come in, let's do your orientation. Here's your manual. Let's have adult story time. I'm going to read this to you. And then you're on your own. You passed a background check. You've got properly fitting undergarments. And here you go. You're in the classroom, and we laugh about that. But if you know, right? So, we want to make sure that we've attracted the right talent and that they know and understand. And so it's really a journey to sit down with schools and help them put together their onboarding process. Which there's really 3 parts to that. There's how are you collecting their paperwork? How are you organizing their files? How are you imparting what it's like to work in your family? And then the third piece is the retention piece. How are you going to retain them? Now that you've attracted them, you've trained them, how are you going to retain them? And I think the secret sauce here is in the community that is created at your center. And, and I know a lot of listeners may be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm hiring people and I'm bringing them into my center, and I'm not super proud of the team that I have. And I cringe that this person who is really not aligned with our core values, is really not, acting in a way that really reflects the heart of who we are as a center. And I'm worried that I'm going to have this new person come in and they're going to say, oh, this is okay. Like, this is how we act. Like, it's okay to come in late. Like, that's fine. Or it's okay to call out. I had 29 times in a year. And that's not an exaggeration. Those things are not okay. Right. And, things come up, of course, but in general, are we paying attention to the tension inside of your center? Because that is part of your retention strategy as well, is what's going on. And I jokingly say the estrogen cloud, no offense, Brian, but as you know, the majority of your team in an early education facility it's going to be women. And I say the estrogen cloud because so many times it's the emotions and the feelings and the jealousy and the gossip and things that can be found in teams of women. And not that guys can't jump in on all of that, for sure.
Really, but, Beth? I had no idea.
Is this shocking to you?
I had absolutely no idea.
Well, I'm thrilled that I can enlighten you today with that.
If I were to say that, I'd get hate mail. So thank you for bringing that point across.
Well, yeah, I'm a realist. And listen, I'm from a family of the majority of women. I've been in education my entire adult life. And so, there are just different challenges of what the microcosm of a small community is. And you have a microcosm of caregivers, right? And so caregivers are feelers. And, they feel with their emotions. They're very empathetic. And so along with that empathetic, there is sometimes, some sensitivity to some things that some valid and some not. And so it's so hard as leaders to balance that and to make each individual person feel valued, to feel heard, and to feel understood. And so that's why I like the Enneagram. I think we do that in a part of our onboarding process. And I teach that to my students because it gives you a common language around what our core fears and motivations are. So like if you will, and I do this all the time in centers, let's do Enneagram training. If you're a 2, that's a helper, stand up. The room will roar because the majority of people who are in the room of early educators are going to stand up because they're 2s, which are helpers, or they're 9s, which are peacemakers, or they're 6s, which are loyalists. Okay. But the majority in my eye-to-eye experience is that we have a lot of helpers. And so helpers make amazing teachers. But again, knowing that you've got people who are helpers, who believe that they're put on this earth to help people, they really value appreciation. They really value, your either words of affirmation or small gifts or, just the acknowledgement. And they don't even really need a lot sometimes, but it's just the acknowledgement of, I see you and I feel valued and I feel appreciated. And you came to work today and the kids needed you. And I'm so glad that you're here. So small things are so important in that retention piece and just understanding their motivations, doing all that you can to create a community within that little microcosm that is your center. Because another question that I ask people in when I'm doing training is we always go back to, what is your why? Like, what is your intrinsic why? Like, why are you still showing up? And almost always it'll be for two reasons. It's because of the kids, but in many cases it's because they love the people they work with. And they're there because they want to make an impact on families, because either they had it and they want to repeat the legacy, or they didn't have it and they want to create a legacy. So, by attracting the people who are going to come into your center and be open to training and learning how you do things in your center, and then building that community, because that is what is going to help. One of the many things, of course, that will help retrain a good quality staff.
Love that. Boy, that's right on. And I think that you just gave some gold to our listeners.
Yeah,
you get the
definitely.
right people in. And I love how you talked about in attracting is the experience piece, not necessarily being so worried about experience. We always took determination over education.
Yes.
If they love kids, I'll take that all day long, more than
all day long.
98.6 degrees on a wall. And that'll mean a hill of beans difference to me if you don't love the kids.
Exactly.
And I've seen so many people focused on education when you should be focused on determination.
Unfortunately, the people who write the childcare rules that we have to go by don't always agree with that.
True. Yeah. Because sometimes the rules are made by educators.
Well, and with determination can come education. Now, childcare has gotten so much funding and so many grants on helping people, achieve a CDA or achieve, there's the Teach Scholarship. There's so many resources out there, so that when you find those people who are on fire for kids, you can point them to the resources to get the education. And that's a huge benefit. And so that to me, for someone who comes into you and they don't have that education, that is someone that you want to invest in, because I find that the ones that we invest in the most are the ones that hang around and really make an impact for the families.
Right. Yeah. And the ones you get with education and determination, pay them extra and don't lose them.
Right.
Bam. That's the Wonder Twin powers right there.
Wonder Twin. All right.
What do you see as the most significant challenge that childcare owners are facing today?
Staffing. I think staffing is
number one.
And I also think too, and I hear this a lot, is behavior challenges from, just behavior challenges with kids, and finding ways to connect with kids and help them to integrate, get them in a place where they can learn and play and keep them safe. I think that I hear a lot is contributing to a lot of the teacher burnout, is they love their jobs, but they feel defeated because they got, they're chasing kids, and they've got kids who are runners, and, just a lot of challenging behaviors that from the classroom standpoint, it's harder.
Yeah. Hi, Beth. Can you tell us about your business? Beth Cannon Speaks, love that name, and how you train childcare leaders.
Yes. So I train in a few ways. I speak at conferences and do keynotes, which is where you and I met. I also do a group coaching program for owners and directors. It's called Step to Strategy Academy. It's a 12-week group coaching program. We'll start that next month. So the wait list is open for that. I can share a link with that in the show notes as well. And then I do leadership retreats, team building intensives at centers, on site at centers. So those are my three kind of core ways that I help early education leaders. But it's the speaking and the training. I'm a true teacher at heart. And if I know a thing, I like to teach a thing. And those are the three ways that I figured that I love the most in teaching the things that I've learned along the journey.
Awesome.
And can you please give us your contact information and how our listeners can get a hold of you?
Yes. So Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, it's Beth Cannon Speaks is where you can find me.
Oh, that's easy.
Easy.
All right. So each week when we have a podcast guest, we like to ask them a mindset question, because, I love mindset. So what do you do to relax and unwind? Carol and I took a bet what you would say. I'll see if I win here.
I do yoga. And
I win.
Are you the winner? Yes. So I've been a group fitness instructor since I was 17, and I've always done that. Now over the years, I'm almost 50, I'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. And so my body is not as bouncy and jumpy as it used to be. So I teach yoga just one Saturday a week. That is kind of I still love to do that. Like I said, no thing, I teach a thing. So I teach yoga. I do yoga because of so many repetitive stress injuries and some other, things that happen as you age. I'm a walker, a swimmer, and a yogi is what I do now. But I don't find rejuvenation in rest. I find rejuvenation in movement. And so once I get my body moving and going, like that's how I get energized. And so I do. I mean, I sleep at night most nights, but I find my energy in moving. I don't have a chair at my desk. I don't sit down, and I find that's what works for me.
Love that. Love that. And then when we were in Florida, you were doing yoga down there. It's like, you're like on a vacation break. You shouldn't be doing yoga. Now I know why, because that's what you do to relax and unwind.
It is.
Awesome.
Each episode, we read a question from a listener who needs coaching. Listener question today is from Lauren in Connecticut. And she says, Dear Brian and Carol, I have a serious problem with employee turnover at my center. It seems that each time I hire someone new, someone quits, and I can't ever seem to get fully staffed. What am I doing wrong? Please help.
Well, so she should listen to this episode, because I gave her some good tips. You got to go back and you got to look. Who are you attracting? How are you training them? And then what's going on in your team? So it's a culture check, right? It's coming in. And I love to do something called a stay interview with my top performers, which is where we sit down and I've got a list of questions that I ask them. Instead of an exit interview, it's a stay interview. Like, what's your deep-seated why? Why are you here? Tell me about your most stressful days. How can I help you? Really just want to know what's working, what's not working, what needs to change, and then getting feedback like, how am I doing? What am I doing well? What's my opportunity for growth? And really, she's got to take a deep dive into who is on her team, and she needs to get a pulse check on who's there. She needs to start filling her bench, because there may be some people that need to step out that might not be a good fit anymore. And that's okay, because there's going to be another door that'll open for that person as well. But I think it's time for a very deep look into what's going on with each individual person at the center and find out what she can do. Maybe just make some low-cost tweaks and figure out, be open to listening to what her team says might help.
Yeah, Beth, I'm seeing that a lot from people that I've coached, that right now people are afraid to let the D and F players go, the people that are really toxic, because they don't have anybody to replace them with. And so they're creating toxic cultures. And when you bring a new person in, they're getting infected right away, and they're not lasting very long, and it's creating a cycle. So sometimes you got to bite the bullet and get rid of those people, which will create the culture so people stay. So it's a catch-22. Sometimes you have to swallow the pill and be a little short-staffed now to be fully staffed later, I believe.
Yeah, and I always say, I mean, you're always filling that bench. You're always hiring. You always have an ad out. You're changing up your ads. You're putting out different information. You're posting in different ways. Maybe it's Facebook ads. Maybe it's Indeed ads. Maybe it's LinkedIn ads. I try to change my strategy a lot, because we have 15 new employees right now. Actually, our business has grown, but COVID shut us down completely. It's grown back, and I'm so grateful for all of that. But at the same time, you're trying to figure out who are these newer people. And so, but I let one go right at the beginning, and I needed her bad. And it was she had taken a picture of something she typed on her phone to give to me as her mandatory medical accommodations, which one was on-demand bathroom breaks. Well, I can't give you an on-demand bathroom break. You can't leave children. We can help you out. Another one was time grace, because she has trouble telling time, and she was afraid, and she needed grace if she weren't able to get to work on time, which there are resources for that, right? Especially with today's technology, I cannot give you time grace. And then the other one was paid time off on days that she's feeling anxious. And so, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but on most days I wake up feeling anxious. And I think a lot of us do. And I don't want to discount, legitimate mental health issues. Right. And there is a space for that. But, I was not able to meet her accommodations, and I wanted her to be able to be at a place where she could be supported, and my company could not support that. So, I think it's paying attention to the tension of what's happening within your center and being bold and brave. And it's going to take some work, but you have to be relentless to fight for the culture that you want.
Love that. Beth, we've enjoyed having you here. This has been an amazing interview. I know people are going to get a whole lot out of it.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for taking your time.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Beth really gave our audience some great ideas.
Yeah, she did. She knows her stuff. She has a great personality. Absolutely, just love her smile and everything about her. She just resonates happiness. And it was great for us to give us some coaching. And how would you like to spend a week with us and get a coaching for free for an entire week? I mean, how does that sound? I think it would be fun to spend a week with me. How about you? You get to spend a week with me all the time. So if you visit childcaregenius.com/workation for more details, we have trips coming up in the Caribbean. Next year, we have March, we're going to Barbados for a week. And in May, we're going to Jamaica for a week. And we're going to take 6 couples with us on each trip and see how you could come absolutely free. For details, childcaregenius.com/workation. We'll help work with you, and we'll do some coaching with you and help you grow your business. And we'll look forward to meeting you.
And this concludes episode 7 of the Child Care Genius podcast.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll be alerted every time a new episode pops in. You'll go ding every time a new episode pops in, and we'll see you real soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Child Care Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help your childcare business grow. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Child Care Genius community.